Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, venture capitalist, securities analyst, and advisor, Morty Davis is a Wall Street legend. In addition, Mr. Davis is an outstanding economist and highly articulate, incisive, and very entertaining political analyst and strategist. He's Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical economic and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the markets and the economy is Jason Lyons. Jason is a private investor, entrepreneur, and founder and chairman of the Wall Street Conference. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Lyons.
Welcome back. Great, super great to be with you once again. It must be Wednesday evening, 6:30. So it's my favorite time of the week because you're my most precious relationships. I love you and I miss you in the interim. I wish I could have you as my cohorts every day of the week. But anyway, I appreciate the feedback I get from you and the criticisms or the compliments or just the insights that I get for you. As I tell my producer, I learn more from interaction from you, just as a teacher learns more from his students than he does from reading books or anything. So, and I'm delighted to have a very special guest today, one of the top Wall Street guys that I met through my 45 years on the street. And I met the biggest and the best and the wealthiest billionaires. And this young man is super. I love him. One of my favorite people in the whole world. Jason Lyons is his name. And people pay him a small fortune to attend his conferences. Wall Street firms, what do you call them? Offices, what kind of offices?
Family offices.
Family offices and all kind of institutions and money managers. So it's a pleasure and a privilege for me to have finally induced them to join me on a podcast station. Podcast on a podcast. So before we launch, as I always tell you, since we discuss the events of the week, it's inevitably going to cause you a state of depression because all of the news that hits the headlines, I mean, there's news on the middle section and the end section, but the ones that they on cable, that they or network television, that they suddenly announce breaking news is inevitably some major tragedy, an earthquake, a flood, a fire in California that's killing people, or a mass slaughter with some nut that's or some individual that hates and goes and shoots little children in school or people at church or wherever, It's so horrendous, the news. And good news doesn't make the front page. As I mentioned in the past, I had some couple of young guys that were very articulate and very impressive. And they came to me with a very good business plan too. They must have paid $75,000 or something to have it written for them. But it was one of the best business plans I ever received. and I don't meet with people unless I get the business plan first and their resumes, their past experience, and am favorably impressed. Then I agreed to meet with them. So these guys were great business plan. I invited them in. Their presence was impressive. They were articulate, and they brought me a business plan that was going to report good news, only good news. And the minute I read it or started to read or heard their presentation, I had read the business plan. I couldn't get excited. I couldn't even get interested in raising the funds for them or doing an initial public offering for them, because even if somebody makes a $50 million contribution to a charity or an institution, college, it doesn't make the front page. You know, even murder doesn't make the front page. But that's bad news. The only way you could assure yourself of getting on the front page is do one of these mass slaughters, or kill one person and put their body in the refrigerator or in the freezer and eat a little bit every day. If it's crazy enough, it'll make the news. So when we discuss the news of the week, as we do every week, the politics or the economy or foreign policy, whatever it is, it's always wars, killings, and wars. It's always, at least it has that effect on me, and I'm sure most human beings. It has the effect of depressing me. I want to forget it, but since we're doing the major events of the week, I have to discuss them with you and then give you some of the conclusions that I and my guest suggest are possible solutions, or just explore why it happens or something. So we're at that stage, and I want to apologize. And also, because I know it's going to depress you, I want to tell you about Happiness Guaranteed or the Misery Back. The book of which you have a picture of on your screen, and at the bottom of the cover it says how to be happy no matter what. And I want to tell you something. It's been so well accepted. One CEO said he loved it so much. Usually, when he gets a one that sent it out, he told me he's now sent out over 500 of this book to his most valuable clients, and he never or rarely ever hears from them. If he hears from them, it's right after they get it. They say thank you, or the next conversation they have with them. And he says in this book, it's been getting calls 2, 3, and 4 months later, saying how much it's uplifted him and his children and his wife. In some cases, where he read it and he was so excited about it, he barged in, and his kids and his wife were watching one of their favorite TV programs, and I turned off the television, and they started to scream at him. He said because it was their favorite, and he said, "Yeah, I'm just going to record it. Don't worry about it, but I wanted you to hear this one page." And he read the page to them, And they liked it so much because this book, every page has humor and jokes and uplifting messages going back to all the wisest men since the beginning of civilization, and biblical thoughts, and all kind of scholars, uh, back to the Roman Empire, Plato and Socrates, everyone you could think of. The one that influences me the most, and that was the inspiration for writing this book, was a bishop in Manhattan, Bishop Sheehan, who wrote a tremendously compelling book for me, and it has influenced my life positively. The name of which was, I know the name
Name that book.
from not from the power of
Positive thinking.
the power of positive thinking, and it was had such a major influence in improving my life and my attitude, not making me happier as people think of happiness, when somebody's drunk or on drugs and they're slapping everybody on the back and they seem happy. I'm talking about real lifelong contentment. And so I've gotten so much great feedback that I am urging you, if you're depressed from this program, this podcast, or if you're not really up every day, run out and get this book, because I'm so sure if it's going to be beneficial to and uplifting to you and have a positive effect in bringing contentment and rewards to your life. So, having gotten that kind of feedback, I now have give you the best deal. I've been offering now for maybe 8 months or more, that if you buy a copy of this book, or even if you get for a gift, and you're not exactly totally uplifted and uh, inspired and in every way benefit from what you get out of this book, I will not only, as many TV TV programs that I work for drugs, that promote drugs or supplements or other products, say if you're not pleased, send back the bottle, and you can even keep the bottle. Send back the purchase slip, and not only the purchase slip that you experienced, but even if you could get the purchase slip from the person that gave you the gift. So I'm going to give you a better deal than they do. I say if you acquire this book, however you acquire it, gift or purchase, and you're not excited and thrilled and inspired and uplifted by its contents, as I'm now promising you, I will send you back double the price it shows on the purchase slip. The only thing I ask you not to do is go out and buy 500 books, so you double your money on 500.
That's funny.
But other than that, I will instantly return your purchase price by double. Okay, so normally I give ideas right away to how to make you happy, but I've given that to you every day, and I don't want to take up any more time from my priceless, sensational, one of the most impressive people I've had come into my life. top Wall Street guy, top guy with, in terms of his sense of humor, of doing good deeds, in every which way that one would judge a human being favorably. This young man, Jason Lyons, encompassed those gifts. So without further ado, I'll ask my producer or Jason to launch the program. I'll keep my mouth shut.
Well, anyway, first of all, it's a real treat, Morty, to be here.
Thank you. It's my treat.
Started off like a Shiva house. You were getting me a little depressed there. Reminded me of a story one time. I went to a levaya.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there.
That's a funeral.
Funeral, and the speeches are going on and on and on.
We have none.
Yeah, and I couldn't get reception on my phone. So I walked out and I went to the office in the funeral home. And I asked the director, what's the Wi-Fi code? And he looked at me like with a stern look. And he said to me, have a little respect.
Wi-Fi code.
The Wi-Fi code. He said to me, have a little respect for the deceased. So I said, is that all lowercase?
A rabbi is given, what do you call it, for a person that passed away.
Yes,
eulogy.
He's giving a eulogy. A hesped.
A eulogy.
Yeah.
And he really doesn't know what to say or do.
Right.
Because this guy is the most hated guy in the community. Even his wife and kids sitting in the front row can't stand him. So he doesn't know what to do. So finally he gets up and says, I want to say one thing about Mr. Davis. He was a lot nicer than his brother.
Compared to his brother, he was a mensch.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
So
first of all, when Lenny reached out this morning to me, I was going to go to the U.S. Open today. I'm wearing my Roger Federer hat. My friend Ben got me tickets tonight. And then I said, listen, I got to go on Morty's podcast. That's more important. Plus, the girls are playing today.
I really appreciate that. A lot of people like the girls better than
the girls. The truth is
none of us could duplicate what the men do. So it's hard to identify it. But with the girls, we could identify
we could sort of identify it. So, I tell you, since Lenny reached out to me, I was thinking about what can I say about Mr. Morty Davis. And
don't tell. I promise you.
I
promise you. I'll pay you whatever you want.
You said double. You said double with the books.
Double. Oh, yeah.
So, I tell you, there are a lot of interesting people I've met, and we've known each other for about 35 years. We met.
Even though he's only 26.
Yeah. I mean, I remember we met in the very early 90s when I first started at Bear Stearns. And, you come across
Wall Street firm.
Yes. So, you come across a lot of interesting CEOs, a lot of venture capitalists, which you are, / banker / entrepreneur. But, the differentiating factor, Morty, is you gave specifically young people a lot of words of encouragement. And I got to tell you, when you're 20-something years old and a luminary like yourself says something, first of all, the fact that you even know who we are or even are willing to meet with us, that was a big deal. I mean, I remember when I used to try to get a meeting with you, and I would call, I think was it Allison or Ruth? I don't even remember back then, right?
Both
of them?
Yeah. Got a good memory.
Yeah, and I'd put it on my calendar as if I'm going to see the Pope. This was a big deal, and I mean Morty Davis was a very big deal. First of all, you are the Forbes 400. Okay, that was a very big deal, and you had taken. I think 1 year you were the most active banker on Wall Street. I think you were the number one underwriter for a certain period of time.
Yeah, for startups and smaller companies.
Startups and startup companies.
Giant.
Anyway, it was a big deal to get, your attention, and the fact that you genuinely came across as somebody who cared. you'd be surprised how many young people you affected over the years. Not just the CEOs that you funded, which we know many of them became multi-billion-dollar companies, but I'm talking about the people that you didn't necessarily fund, meaning you funded their confidence. And that turned out to establish families and grandchildren, and it spawned many things which you can't necessarily put your finger on, but I'm a product of that. And one of the reasons why, when I came up to New York this time, I reached out to you, and that's my way of saying thank you.
And I really appreciate it.
And
Thank you.
I also want to thank you for coming to Florida to the conference, which was 11 years ago. You came, and I was telling
Fabulous conference.
Thank you. I was telling Lenny that we've had 800 speakers in the last 25 years,
Wow.
and I don't remember a line to meet a presenter / speaker than you had. And I'm talking about, I had over 20 presidential candidates, governors, senators, prime ministers.
And they pay a fortune
Yeah.
to attend and participate in this conference.
But there's bookends to that story. One is it was somebody like you who gave me the confidence to be able to do that. Before you're able to sell a product or you're able to sell a business, you have to sell yourself.
Yeah.
Now, when you have, like in this book, you have people that have written approbations about your book, okay? In Jewish, they would call that word haskama. If somebody wanted to go ahead and sell a sefer, right, a Hebrew book, they would have got Rabbi Moshe Feinstein to write something. You can get somebody like Ace Greenberg or Warren Buffett or Michael Bloomberg, who I believe worked for you, right? So
no, complained.
He complained for you?
He interviewed when he got out of Harvard Business School.
Oh, okay.
For a job with me, and every time he introduces me, I meet him.
I think Ira once worked at your firm too.
Oh yeah, Ira worked for me.
Yeah.
But Mike Bloomberg always introduces me. Like I go to fundraisers where he raises money for major candidates, political candidates.
Yep.
And I take a picture with the two of them,
Ooh.
and I'm in the middle, and he says, Morty Davis wouldn't hire me.
Wow. Wow. So he became a billionaire despite. And I noticed you have a beautiful picture with you and Mayor Rudy Giuliani on the wall, who recently was announced as getting the Medal of Freedom Award.
Did you know also that he was in an auto accident?
I heard about that. Yes.
He broke his back.
Broke his back.
That's a terrible thing.
We certainly wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
And I remember watching a video once of Ronald Reagan personally thanking you.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And praising.
And you've had a lot of interactions with our current president too.
Yeah. And praising my book.
Right.
Saying Morty Davis. It was called Making America Work Again, the book, many years ago, right after Carter was president and Reagan was about to come on. I read a book called Making America Work Again.
Okay.
And he made a speech, I have it on the internet, saying Morty Davis demonstrates working hard is very gratifying, something to that effect.
Very nice. Well, anyway, Lenny, are we going to have a little Q&A? You want to run some questions by us? Question number 1. Okay. Am I supposed to read the question? Okay. I've got to get my glasses here. So, Leonard, who's serving as our, producer for this podcast, and I know Leonard's been with you for almost as long as I know you. I remember Lenny. So he has a few questions here about markets, investing, and policy. So the first question he has proposed is the U.S. stock markets are near an all-time high. Even as tariffs loom, jobs growth slows, and the Fed is uncertain on rates. Why are investors so optimistic? Is this rally sustainable, or are we headed for a correction when reality catches up?
With your vast knowledge, my producer felt that was a very appropriate
Yep. So
question.
okay,
to
you want to
raise
you okay? So if I would take a stab at this, let's date this because I get this asked quite often.
Right.
Okay, now somebody will take a soundbite and they don't realize that 6 months go by. So today is September 4th, I believe. I know it's my parents' anniversary, so I had to. I wished them this morning. I would tell you the market is higher, is definitely in an elevated space. The way I like to look at markets sometimes is imagine if everything was in reverse. Imagine if the markets were at a 10-year low. Okay, we're now at a 10-year high.
Right.
So if they were at a 10-year low, okay, the one lesson I learned when I got into the business was buy low and sell high. Okay,
that's a good.
Okay. So
easier said than done.
Easier said than done. But I remember in a book that you gave me sometime in the 1990s, and you told me that when the shoe shine guy starts giving you stock tips, it's time to change course. And I think we're getting close to that at the market. I would be pairing off positions at this stage. We actually hit a new high on the S&P today.
Again.
The Qs, which is the QQQs, which is basically the ETF that encompasses the top 100 NASDAQ stocks. It's mostly weighted towards, 5 or 6 particular stocks. High tech, high beta stocks. That is very close to an all-time high. So just imagine in reverse, if they were near a 10-year low, I would be recommending people to start nibbling, to start jumping. And I don't like to recommend people to catch a falling knife, but at some point I noticed that markets tend to overshoot themselves in both directions. Yeah. And I believe that's where we were. If you think about it,
people get scared and panic.
They panic, they scare, but on the flip side,
Warren Buffett says about that?
I think I do, but I'm going to let you tell me.
Warren Buffett is the most successful investor that any of us know of.
Right.
At least I think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Really phenomenal. And he said when everybody panics and it's dropping, he figures it's like a sale at a department store.
Right.
It's the right time to rush in and buy.
Right. So let's use that information, right, and say, okay, what does that mean when markets are exploding and they've overreached? Okay, it's a hard thing to do, but this is a time where you want to put in hard stop losses. You want to sell, options against your stock if you want to hold on to them, or if you've had already, a taxable consequence where you're going to pay a long-term capital tax. This is a good time to start pairing off positions.
I don't think that Buffett has been a seller, though.
Well, Buffett, if you notice, his largest position is Apple, and he just announced that he took off about 20% of his position on Apple. Yeah. Now, I think where you have opportunities in this market is where I think you got to roll up your sleeves, and you got to really depend on research. Every single day there's a story that will come out. Today a great story was American Eagle, which is owned by the Schottenstein family. Okay, what's interesting is Lululemon reported very bad earnings today after the close. However, last night, American Eagle reported a terrific quarter. So you're going to ask yourself, okay, now
what business are they in?
American Eagle is a clothing company, very sporty, very trendy. Okay, but what they did is they took this girl, her name is Sweeney, who is an influencer. They hired her, and according to their CEO, Jay Schottenstein, he said last night that this was probably the best marketing/branding experience that the company ever had. So here's two companies reporting one day apart from each other. One stock is American Eagle, and it's up, I think it was up almost 40% today. On 100 million shares of volume. The stock traded about $1.8 billion worth of paper.
That's fantastic.
And then you have Lululemon, which is down considerably. Okay. So the difference is Lululemon is a very sporty type. I'm actually wearing their pants right now.
Same business.
Yeah. So now if you ask yourself, okay, if I'm going into a sector, why do I have one company that did so well and I have another company that reported so lousy? So the differentiating factor is influence, okay? And American Eagle was ahead of the curve. They were able to get this Sweeney young girl who I'm not overly familiar with, but they ran a very, let's call it controversial type of ad, which the president chimed in on, and it got a lot of play. And they also hired Travis Kelce, who's a football player who just recently got engaged to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
So what American Eagle did is they took basically these young influencers, okay, and they incorporated them into their business plan, which is what you were alluding to earlier in the podcast. And Lululemon apparently just rested on their laurels, just assuming that things would correct itself, and they did. So I think that's what you're going to have to start doing right now. You're going to have to be a bit of a go-getter. You're going to have to start thinking out of the box. And when markets are elevated like they are right now, the only way you can really excel is if you really start thinking creatively.
Incidentally, my son-in-law's mother was a Schottenstein.
Oh, okay. Well, they're
But
wonderful.
he lost her when he was maybe 5 or 10.
Okay. Well,
Very young.
they're absolutely wonderful people. I know them well.
Yeah, they give a lot of charity.
Yes, they do. Yes. Okay, the next question I have here is, where do you see value these days? What should investors do? And what is your personal investment style and approach? So, like I said, when it comes to value, I don't see a lot of actual value right now. Okay, there are times where there are certain asset classes that are doing better than others, but gold is at an all-time high. Silver is elevated. Bitcoin, which is an asset class, which I see is on this list, so we'll get to Bitcoin in a minute, is obviously near a all-time high. And the market's at an all-time high, and interest rates are also very high. Okay, so what do you do when you have, okay, once in a while, cash is actually not a bad idea. And I think this is one of those opportunities where cash is interesting. And I think real estate over the next year or two could get somewhat interesting. I heard that a lot of people got decimated in the Northeast in real estate. It was a combination of politics and COVID. And I recently read, about one, what I would consider him a savvy investor. His name is Ashkenazi. He lost a few properties, but he's a fighter. And he is getting back into New York real estate. He's actually buying more. And I was reading about him in The Real Deal this weekend, and I think he could be onto something, because I see one of your questions here is about interest rates. I think interest rates are going to come down about 50 basis points this year. Okay, we're now in August, so we don't have a lot of time left for them to come down. Now, there's another question here about, should the president force the guy from the Fed, which is Powell, to cut interest rates? If he doesn't do it, should he force him out? Okay, we'll get to that in a few minutes. But, at 50 basis points, okay, in theory, it's not that much, but it will give the real estate industry a bit of a heartbeat, which it's been lacking. But more importantly, it will signal the end of this trajectory, which was going up, okay, in terms of interest rates. And once they start stabilizing and they start going down, you've created a new trend. So the trend will start leaning lower. And right now, let's say a mortgage is what, Len? About 7% to get a mortgage? Okay, so I think within a year and a half, we'll be at 5.5%. I think the days of 3.5% are not coming back. So if you're waiting for that to get back into real estate, that's wishful thinking, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to settle at 5.5% over the next year and a half. But there is going to be some infighting. But that first move lower stops it from going higher. Okay, and that's, I think, what people are looking for. I think that will drive people back into the markets. Politics-wise, I know this guy Mamdani looks like he's going to win. Okay,
Oh my God.
It looks like
God
it.
forbid.
It looks like it. But I will tell you this. Okay, if he does end up winning, I think it will actually be good for New York in 4 years from now.
Really?
Okay, yeah, in 4 years from now, I think what will happen is the pendulum will swing so far to the left that
To the left?
a lot of which means a lot of businesses will
You could be
will
more.
leave.
You could be more left than you can't be more left than.
No. What I'm saying is it will go all the way to the left, meaning as far as it can go. I agree with you. It'll go as far as it'll go. Okay, and then I think what happens is
More left than whatever how you pronounce the name.
Mandami.
Mandame.
No. What I'm saying is he is the most extreme that we have seen to date.
It's
okay,
the farthest left. It's a communist.
Right. So let's equate the Mandani, let's call it tenure, to a bear market. Right. Some of the greatest bull markets come after a bear market, and I think that's what will end up happening in New York real estate. I think it will bottom out. It'll flush out a lot of people.
God forbid we should have to go through.
Oh well, I think
something like 29 to get a good market.
Well, I tell you like this: I don't follow New York politics as much as the rest of the country, but because this case has gotten so much publicity, you can't but not watch it. It just seems to me that you've got 4 candidates in that race. Okay, all 4 of them want to stay in the race. Ideally, if they would coalesce around somebody like Cuomo, there would be a decent chance that Cuomo could win. But this guy, Curtis Sleva, seems to be wanting to stay in, and Adams is staying in. Unless President Trump offers the 2 of them some sort of role in his administration, I don't think these guys are leaving. I think that's probably
what'll happen.
It'll probably happen.
Definitely.
Right, but you're also running out of time, right? It's now already, let's call it the first week of September, and you got 2 months, right? November 4th or so is
oh yeah.
I mean, it's really coming up.
You're right.
So you've got 8 weeks left to really start, get this together.
That's a good point.
So I would tell you like this: as depressing as it is, and as a Floridian, we are sometimes the beneficiaries of the tumultuous type of atmosphere that happens in the Northeast because people end up moving down. We don't want to necessarily get people in Florida just because they were disenfranchised up here in the Northeast. However, I have family here, I have friends here. I want to see New York do well, and I think there is a good chance that New York will bottom out through this process, and it will come back fairly strong.
Incidentally, everything bottoms out. Every tragedy ends, but that's hardly inspiring or uplifting.
Yes, I'll tell you. I don't know if you have a religious audience listening tonight, but we have obviously Rosh Hashanah coming up, and we have Yom Kippur coming up.
Right.
But the saddest day of the year is Tisha B'Av, and we have this prayer that we say most days called Tachanun, which is a prayer where you put your hand down and you say Tachanun. And surprisingly, the one day we don't say it is on Tisha B'Av. And if I were to ask you, what is the one day that you should say Tachanun? You would say Tisha B'Av, but you don't. So now the question is, why don't you? Tachanun is a prayer that we put down and we mourn the fact that we don't have the temple anymore. Okay, so you got to ask yourself, why don't we say Tachanun? Why don't we say this sad prayer on the saddest day? Because when you hit rock bottom, it's also a simcha. It's also a holiday. And that's why it's referred to as a moed, Tisha B'Av. It's a holiday. Why is it a holiday? It's a bad day, right? We're mourning. All these things happen. But when it's really dark, it's always darkest before it's light. If you ask people that know anything about how the evening works, the darkest part of the evening is right before the morning. And when you hit rock bottom and there's nowhere else to go but up, it's a simcha, it's a holiday. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what could happen in New York if you really hit rock bottom.
So you're rooting, you're rooting for it to crash.
Well, in the markets where we come from, we call that word capitulation. Okay. Now, real estate, you don't really hear that term. Okay. You don't hear that term when it comes to societies, to communities. But I'm taking a word that we've used. Okay, we used it during the Mexican long-term, peso crash back in 91 when I first met you. Okay, we had a 2008/9 moment, okay, where fortunes ended up being made, Okay, and then we had a COVID capitulation where the
So
market had
2004 and 8, people
2004, 2008, you
people
had
lost a ton of money. What do you
2021.
mean? They lost a ton of money.
Right, but what I'm saying is when that capitulation day comes, okay, and people throw in the towel,
Yeah.
which is what you alluded to before with Warren Buffett, that creates a whole new slew of people that can come in. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think things are going to get so lousy in the city that there's nowhere going to go but up. And I think there'll be a euphoric turnaround in New York City in about 2 to 4 years from now. That's what I'm kind of predicting.
If we have any more exits, we won't have any population. They'll all be in
That's a problem.
Florida.
Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting though. If you want to bring up Florida, Florida did lose 500,000 people this year.
Really?
I'm not saying they net loss, but let me give you an example of who left Florida. Somebody bought their house in Florida 10 years ago for $300,000. Their house is now worth $900,000. They were paying property taxes of $1,500, and now they're paying property tax of $6,500. Right? So the guy is going to take that spread. He's going to move to a place like Georgia. He's going to rebuy his house for $300,000. He's going to put $600,000 in the bank, and he's going to go from $6,500 down to $1,500. So it did create a lot of people in the middle to kind of move up to the Carolinas and to Georgia.
A lot of people
So
left.
about 500,000 people,
Really?
I believe, left. Now,
but
the wealthier
what was
people,
the net?
net is Florida gained since COVID about 2 million people, but it would have been, let's say, 2.5. Okay. Now, people that are trying to protect wealth because there's no state income tax, there are a lot of people that are spending 6 months in a day in Florida. When I moved there, I wouldn't say it was that applicable. I'm there almost 24 years, but a lot of people do move to Florida because of the state income tax. But I will tell you this: don't get fooled. Property tax is very high in Florida because of the insurance, and some homes are not even insurable anymore because they're too close to the water. And the cost of a lot of things in Florida are more expensive. And I just spent a few days here in the Five Towns and in Lakewood and in Brooklyn, and the grocery prices are considerably cheaper here than they are in Florida. Now, if you amortize that over
Probably
years,
not oranges.
In 10 years, yeah, maybe not orange juice, but especially kosher items, I find are much more expensive in Florida. Now, you have a lot of nickel diming here in New York, which means every time I go park my car, I either have a meter or I got to, it's expensive. You have a lot of tunnels and bridges. We don't have as much of that, but there are a lot of hidden costs in Florida, which people don't necessarily see. So, I try to be honest with people before they move down there, look under the hood.
Incidentally, I want to point out something that you talked about a little while ago. I didn't want to interrupt you. But interest rates normally go down when the economy is bad to inspire growth, that people have more money. They're not paying so much in interest rates for their loans and so forth. So it's remarkable that with the economy this good,
right,
and also for the Fed to be influenced by elected politicians, it's terrible, because all they care about is the short term influence. If they cut interest rates right before the election, and people actually have a chance to experience that it's a positive for the incumbents, and they do that. And you don't want the Fed to act on, these impulses or these desires, short-term desires of the politicians. So that's why I'm totally against the president.
Well, I think the president has he has a inherited conflict of interest, right? Because he is a real estate guy. He has a lot of New York real estate, which he wants to refinance. Now, if you want to say Powell's doing a bad job, that's a little bit of an oxymoron, because at the same time, Trump is telling the world that the U.S. economy is the hottest economy in the world, and everybody's running here.
Right.
So how could you say your Fed guy is a bad guy? Okay. So now the reason is because he wants to lower rates for him and his buddies, Okay, and he has a conflict of interest over there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I agree with you that it's a very dangerous thing when you start using your power and your influence to get rid of people specifically for something that you're very conflicted on. It's not to say that the president's not doing a good job, but he clearly needs to recuse himself in this particular area because he has a conflict of interest. So let's move on to crypto. Um, Lenny here wrote, if it's a tulip craze. Okay, so for those of you that are not familiar with that craze, that phrase, there was a time, I don't know the exact year, where tulips, for whatever reason, created some sort of value. Actually, Gordon Gekko in Wall Street highlighted that particular tulip craze. And I have two major problems with crypto, okay? And these are from personal experiences. Hacking is still very, very prevalent. You put your money at JP Morgan, you put your money at Morgan Stanley, you're not getting hacked. Okay, I personally got hacked for $500,000 worth of crypto once. It left a very bad impression on me.
You never recovered it?
I did not recover it.
Wow.
Okay, I took it as a loss. And I can tell you that it's a horrible feeling. You forget your password. We are still, I think, years away from completely protecting yourself with cryptocurrency. So that's one thing. That is not for the faint
I
of
didn't
heart.
lose $500,000, but the biggest mistake I made in investing ever is two or three of the founders of crypto came to my office and wanted me to get actively involved, make markets and so forth. And I thought of it as it's not backed by anything.
Right.
You create money out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned them down. You know how much Bitcoin was when they were in my office at that time?
$10.
Yeah. Within that range.
So I'm going to give a shout out to a young man. His name is Mordechai Ringel. The first time I heard about Bitcoin,
Ringel?
Ringel. First
There's
time
a
I was
Ringel that lives in
yes, his son
what's his name?
Benji.
Yeah.
Mordechai Ringel told me about Bitcoin when it was $10 a coin. Okay, and he was probably 14 years old. I didn't take it seriously. He did, and I got to give him a shout out because it was, just way before I heard it from anybody. When it got to 200, you really could have bought all you wanted. 150, 200.
Well,
You could have
I'm
bought all
telling
you
you,
wanted.
young people that have no frame of reference don't know about things like the tulip craze or the Hudson. A lot of those.
Now, and if you're asking me today, should you buy Bitcoin? I would say the risk reward is not there. At 110,000 a coin. Okay, just think about it right now. Right, we're talking about $10. We're talking about $100. Right, that's 1,000x. Okay, even if Bitcoin were to go to $1 million, that would only be a 10x. Okay, but it's already gone up 1,000x. So I like to look at things as risk reward. I happen to think that if you haven't bought Bitcoin to date, you have no business buying it now. Okay, if you are an institution,
see, you're getting good investment advice.
Yeah, and I think if you are an institution and you are forced to put money into different asset classes, where if Bitcoin were to go from 110,000 to 50,000, it will not have a serious dent in the portfolio because it represents 1 or 2%. So when you see somebody like Blackstone, right? When you see Blackstone, right?
Oh, you mean that's not all their money?
Right. No. So I'm saying is when you see Blackstone and they have a headline that says they're buying $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, okay, what that does is retail people run in because they think that means something. But once they realize that they have $6 trillion under management, $1 billion is like you and I putting in 10 cents into Bitcoin. That's where the headline is a complete BS to reality. Okay.
Incidentally, Blackstone is an excellent example of what you never know what's good or bad for you.
Right.
Because the two founders of Blackstone were Schwartzman and Peterson.
Right.
Peterson was the former Secretary of the Treasury.
Okay.
And the reason they started Blackstone was they were thrown out of Lehman Brothers.
Okay.
So at that time, they were embarrassed. Nobody understood why they would be. Peterson was a brilliant, brilliant guy.
Right.
I lost all respect for Schwartzman totally, not because he made a lot of money, God bless him.
Okay.
But when they threatened to tax, what is it called? What they
The carried interest.
carried interest
Okay.
as capital gains tax, the government did.
Right.
They said they're being worse than they had Nazis. For a Jewish guy to say that is so outrageous and so hurtful.
Yep.
Because he's talking about money, and also there's no reason why they should get capital gains treatment. I don't know how the IRS would let them in the first place take it, because they manage whatever, 2 billion, 3 billion, multi-billions, and they get 2% or 3% or something like that.
Yep.
That they pay regular tax on because that's from their work. But also happens that the gains they make managing people's money is also from their work. Capital gains were inspired by the desire to encourage people to invest so that they get favorable tax in the form of capital gains that they make money, and they get a favorable tax if they lost money.
Okay.
But those firms like Blackstone never had any risk capital up like all
Right.
of their investors did. So they don't deserve special treatment. But for him to say that shows a remarkable disrespect.
It's definitely not a flattering
It's
comment that he made. It
it's
reminds me of a story, about this well-dressed individual. He was sitting on a stoop peeling an apple. Lenny, you know this story? And this young man comes over to him and he says, "You look like a very successful person. If you don't mind me asking, how did you become so successful? How did you become so wealthy?" So he says, it was 1929, 1930. It was down to my last dime. I took that dime, I went to the marketplace, and I bought an apple, and I shined it up a good, and I sold it for 2 dimes. And then I took the 2 dimes, and I went back to the marketplace, and I shined them up a good and sold it for 2 dimes. And the young boy said, "You just kept doing that till you made your fortune?" He says, "No, then my uncle died and left me $2 million."
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good approach.
Okay. All right. So we got the 10-minute cue here. So let's just skip to a couple of things. We spoke about the Fed on this list here. We just spoke about taxes. Let's talk a little bit about budget in China, because there's 2 questions here, and I'm going to show you how we're going to tie the 2 together. Should the U.S. be concerned about budget deficits, and what about trade deficits? And then question number 9 here is China a threat to the U.S. and world order? Okay, so China is the largest counterparty that we have in terms of trade in the world today. Actually, China rivals all of Europe, so they need to be taken seriously. Now, what we saw yesterday in China had a lot of different effects. Okay, the first thing is Xi is consolidating power. Okay, he was able to get 26 world leaders, and these are leaders that are feeling that they're getting either bullied or pushed around by Trump, and they're backed into a corner, and they can't single-handedly fight him. So Xi said, "Listen, this is not just a Chinese issue. Okay, this is about, let's call it 1/3 of the world that is not happy with the way you're just, wagging your stick at all of us, and we have to jump." Now, because I'm the biggest of the group, I was the one to coalesce all of these people. He walked out with Putin flanked to his right. He had Kim Jong-un on his left. He had Modi behind him, but he had very well-heeled representation from Turkey and Egypt. These are not small little countries
And Iran,
that tagged along. Obviously, those as well.
Iran and North Korea.
Right. So what happens is like this: the United States, what are we up to? 37 trillion? Is that the deficit right now, Lenny? I don't know. We're somewhere in that 40, close to 40. Okay, of which the Chinese is about 10 of it. Okay. Now the president is trying to position himself where he wants the Chinese to forgive a lot of that debt. Now Now his basis is no. I've actually heard this from very reliable sources. Really? Now let's.
On what basis?
Oh, so that's the obvious question. The basis is that the president believes, okay, and many people believe that COVID started in China, okay, and this is a way of, let's call it, paying reparations for the world falling apart during Trump's first term. And there would be a way where China would forgive some of that debt. The problem is if you bully China into, let's just say you woke up one morning and said, you know what, we're not paying you back because we believe that you started COVID. Okay? Yes, in theory, he could do that. The problem is would you lend money to the United States anymore? Okay? So you have to walk a fine line. Okay? So I think there's going to be some sort of larger conversation with China at some point where we will ease up on you on the tariffs. We want you to forgive some of the debt without denying or admitting. Remember the language sometimes that they use when they try to get you, okay? And I think you're going to have something all-encompassing. Now, your question is...
I don't believe China will ever admit to being a source.
No. So that's why I said without denying or admitting, okay? They will tie it in within the tariffs where they will end up, I believe that they will end up canceling some of the debt, or they will not charge interest on some of the debt, which would also be a win. But at some point, the debt is going to get out of hand. And I think that is one of the reasons why the Musk relationship blew up. I think that Musk, part of him did want to get rid of the spending. This balloon deficit is certainly getting out of control. They never let the government shut down, if you always notice it, right? They always threaten, and at the last minute.
Musk incidentally had very positive views of China.
Well, there's a reason for it, because most of his revenue is coming from China, right? So he's conflicted over there.
The biggest capitalist in the world.
No, politics and wealth is riddled with conflicts, okay? But I definitely think you have a new world order. But the reason is the people talk about the tariffs, and I have it here, but what you don't have on here is sanctions, okay? In that when the United States started sanctioning Russia, okay, and they start sanctioning other countries as a way of punishing them. I know some people that are actually on the sanctions list, okay? They can't do anything. They're completely handcuffed. They're crippled, whatever term you want to use. Okay. If you ask me, I don't think sanctions is a good way of punishing people, because part of the reason why New York real estate is lower is because these wealthy Russians can't buy in Manhattan anymore. Okay.
And also that hasn't worked at all against Iran.
Doesn't go
against Iran.
Yes. And I think one of the reasons why I believe that Russia went to war with Ukraine was at some point there would be a uncoupling of this war, okay? And during that negotiation process, I believe he is going to negotiate to try to get the sanctions lifted.
This is what it has to start. I told everybody what a fool Biden was, or the United States was.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember what Putin told the United States. If you don't take Ukraine into NATO, I won't attack.
Okay.
All right? So why don't you accept that? Oh, well, you can't trust Putin. So you say, you give an incentive. If you don't try to attack NATO, we won't start a war.
Right.
So we said, the United States should have said, okay, but if you do attack, you will fight the United States and NATO. Remember our response to Cuba, which isn't as close as Poland and Hungary, which is right on the border.
Sure.
So And another thing, the United States, to me, has been the most, if you want to go and want to use the word bully, most active adversary to countries in the whole world. We've been in more wars since the end of Second War, since 1945, than any other country in the world.
Right.
And we never were attacked once, ever, in the United States. Even Pearl Harbor wasn't.
Right.
So what are we going to war against? North Korea, against Vietnam, against Afghanistan. Afghanistan, 3,000 Americans were killed.
So why do you think?
Go after the guy.
Why do you think that is?
It's what?
Why do you think? Why do you think we went?
I'll tell you what. Eisenhower, I thought he was a terrible president. Nothing happened during his 8 years.
Okay.
No wars, no nothing. Now I think he was the best president ever because he avoided any conflict. But at the end of the war, at the end of his tenure, every president gets up and makes a speech, how great he did for the country, how great he was, and so forth. He got up and didn't say any of that. He said he just warned the American people and the United States government that the most dangerous part of what's happening in the United States is the military industrial complex. And that's the most dangerous today. As a matter of fact, at the end of the Cold War,
right,
we thought we're going to get, it was announced, by knowledgeable people that we will get a big dividend in the fact that we'll be required to spend much less in defense.
Okay.
The very first thing we did, the Soviet Union broke up, and it broke all the made peace, no more Cold War.
Right.
So, if anything, if we wanted to do something positive, we should have invited them to be one of our guys to NATO.
Okay.
But if you didn't want to do something that positive to induce them to be friendly, the first thing we did 2 years later is we put missiles in Poland and Hungary on the border.
Right.
Look at the way we responded with Cuba. We almost had a World War.
Yep.
It's 90 miles away, and we heard that Russia's going to come. So I don't know a more hostile action than it could do. So we made them an enemy when we couldn't.
Sure.
You don't have an engagement where you alienate your.
No, these are excellent points, and it's interesting because you don't hear that theory, and it makes a lot of sense.
And I'm in the middle of writing a book
Right.
that argues that this
Right.
world will not be able to be inhabited in 150 years, maybe sooner, because it's as simple as this: every product that they've invented for hurting somebody else. Initially, I had to be within 5 yards, a rock or a branch. The great technology of the spring that is provided by a bow and arrow, so you could reach somebody half a block away.
Right.
Then they invented a gun, so they could have a duel. They had one guy walk a block away,
20 paces,
a block away, and then the other guy a block away. And then they said fire, so you could reach a guy maybe almost a block away. Then we had tanks and planes and every kind of thing, cannons.
Right.
And we used that. In each case, it was more powerful, killed more people
and further
faster.
away.
And
now you can push a button and destroy the whole world.
Yeah, and my point is, they've continued to use everything we developed, everything.
Right.
Maybe not every country, but we, the United States or other countries, used everything. And I just have to add one thing. the atom bomb that we had at that time, that many scientists were afraid to use because they were afraid the fallout would destroy the whole world. They didn't know. Nobody ever blew up an atom bomb. Fortunately, it didn't do that. And how they, anybody could be critical of Israel killing civilians because those two bombs,
Sure,
they saved American lives, but killed 200,000 people, all civilians in a day. But at the rate we're going, if they use the newest bomb, I don't say the United States and Russia would use it because we've had this idea of mutual destruction and we care. But somebody like some evil guy, I don't want to say necessarily Iran, but Iran has articulated, if they get it, they'll destroy Israel. And you know what the charter of Hamas is?
Annihilation.
Yeah, the annihilation of Israel and the Jewish people.
Yeah.
So how are you going to make a deal with them? And the Palestinians have the same approach.
You're not going to make a deal.
They've had many, many opportunities to have a state. Even when the UN made Israel a state, they offered the Palestinians a big piece of land, bigger than Israel. And they didn't even come back to the UN to negotiate, say, okay, we'll do it, but you give us because that wasn't their goal. Their goal was really to get rid of Israel. And in the 75 years since then, Israel gave them many opportunities. We just because Sadat came to Israel, came to the Egyptian president, prime minister, came to Israel, and they gave him a piece of land much more valuable and much larger desire, the Sinai.
The Sinai.
Israel gave them the Sinai.
Yep.
Afterwards, they had a conflict with Lord Jordan on the border, some borderland. Israel gave them that extra land that they were fighting over.
Remember what Jackie Mason used to say? Jackie Mason said that if it didn't have a boardwalk, Israel doesn't need it. Jackie Mason used to say, if there's no boardwalk, we don't need it.
That's right. They gave the meeting that Arafat with Barack with Clinton.
Yeah, 96%.
Yeah, Clinton said that offer he thought he had a deal. It was the most amazing thing.
Right.
And
because they want to be the victim.
And if you're not happy with the deal, you think the guy would counter.
Right.
He never countered. He left the meeting and he started an intifada.
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, Clinton says all the time, he says it publicly, and you can go on YouTube, and he says the Palestinians, they didn't want a state. They want to remain the victims. Because as long as you're the victim, you're going to get sympathy, and that's really what they want.
So Israel has indicated a willingness to have a state.
They would have done it.
No, I'm saying.
At this point, I don't think it's going to happen that quickly now.
The Palestinians in the 75 years haven't given the slightest
indication.
Indication.
That they want it.
That they would have it.
No. And unfortunately, I don't think there will ever be peace between the Jews and the Palestinians, or at least the Israelis.
The only thing I take issue with Netanyahu, who happens to be a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He came to my office several times with his security and so forth. And he once invited me to his office when I was in Israel. And I thought I'd get 10 minutes. I brought along Morty Davis. He kept me back to bed. He kept me there 2 hours.
Wow.
So he was a good friend. But after October 7th, he immediately said, we're going to destroy Hamas.
Right.
He should have done it.
Right. He had, at that point, he had the world's sympathy.
No, you got to do it. Forget about the world's sympathy. You do it, whatever the sympathy, you had to do it.
Right.
Because every few years you're getting so I thought that was right. All of a sudden, all this time it's being held hostage by the hostage families.
Right.
You know, well, they're just one family.
No,
Look,
no.
if it was my family, I wouldn't care about Israel. I wouldn't care about the country.
Right.
I'd want them back. But you can't respond to that. And every day they're drafting new young people
Yeah.
to get killed, many more. And they, as a settlement for 50
Israel's
people released,
Israel's
he gave 1,001 murderers and rapists back to release
Yeah, I mean
them.
that Galit Shalit deal. I think they gave at least 1,000 for one.
I mean, yeah, for a dead soldier.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Yeah.
But this
Well,
time,
he was alive.
for the first 50
Yeah.
returned, they requested 1,001.
I think you. I
And
think
that
you very.
1,001
Yeah.
will kill many more.
Listen,
than the 50.
I think you very eloquently put it that even though you understand the lopsidedness of the trade, you yourself as a grandfather, great grandfather, and even a great great grandfather would have empathy towards the family and
I
understanding.
have tremendous empathy.
Yeah.
But you can't run a country
Right.
by being empathetic to a small group of people, no matter how right they are.
Sure.
That there were civilians, there were women and children.
Yeah.
I want them to return.
No, it's a terrible situation.
Are many more people getting?
Yes, no,
killed?
close to 1,000 IDF soldiers have died.
Yeah.
I will tell you this though:
and
the
continue
best
to die every day.
the best thing I've seen is a counterattack to the media. Was I don't know if you caught Ambassador Leiter's interview last week with Jake Tapper.
No.
And he said that on the question of, let's call it an over amount of use against civilians.
Who's Leiter?
Leiter is the ambassador from
Foreign
Israel, to the United States.
Foreign Minister. Ambassador.
Ambassador.
Okay.
And he said that after what the world saw, what we did in Iran, where we controlled the airspace,
Right.
and this is him speaking, not me. We meaning Israel
I
compared.
think he was speaking.
And he says,
Yeah,
you don't think
He's
we have.
apologizing before he says it's not me.
He said to Tapper, you don't think Israel has
It's
the
what do you call
ability.
it? It's people who throw their voice.
Ventriloquist.
It's not him.
It's not it.
Ventriloquist.
Right.
Okay.
Anyway, Leiter basically said that after seeing Israel's military expertise in Iran, you don't think we have the wherewithal of taking out Hamas right away. He said that my son died. Okay, the ambassador's son was an IDF soldier. He died. And he said, I didn't sacrifice my son. Okay, the reason why my son died, he said, is because we are meticulous about life. We are, very concerned about, not just,
Right.
carpet blanking these people, right? So,
And he doesn't want it.
and Tapper was kind of stunned by it,
And he's expressing his desire that it not be a total waste, because his son gave his life in an effort to prevent recurring attacks
That's a
by
good point.
Hamas every few years.
That's a good point. Well, anyway, Morty, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come on your show.
Thank you. It was so entertaining. You were great. Wasn't he great? We're going to have him back again.
Thank you. First of all,
And he was great without telling a lot of jokes. But
I'll tell you,
he got in a couple.
You started off so like it was a depressing thing, so I wasn't sure where I should go from there. But the next time, if we start off where we're euphoric and we're happy, maybe we should do a Purim podcast, so we're a little bit more.
Don't feel bad. Everybody gets depressed from it, so don't.
Yes, but Baruch Hashem, I try to stay positive. You were obviously a major influence on my life. And I love you.
You are terrific.
And on May Estrim, you should live to 120, and it should be a leap year.
Don't do that curse to me.
It should be a leap year.
Years ago, there was a play on Broadway, stop the world. I want to get off.
Yeah,
I
stop the
said,
world.
I agree too. I want to go.
Well, Morty, just think about all the words of
No,
wisdom
but
you can still.
the punishment fits the crime.
Okay.
God
Okay.
won't let me out.
No. Well, God still wants you here for a reason.
To punish me.
Well, I don't know about
To
that.
get even.
I don't know about that. Listen, that's your self-deprecating humor.
I don't have to worry. They say only the good die young.
Only the good day.
I don't sweat it.
You and Billy Joel. That was terrific.
He's the only one that has a collection of jokes almost equal to mine.
All right. Terrific. This was great. Morty, thank you again. And
Thank you.
I look forward to returning.
One of the best we ever had.
Oh, thank you.
There's a big number now for the latest, the Powerball.
The Powerball. You know the story with the guy who goes to the Kotel, and for 40 straight days he's davening. Let me win the lottery. Let me win the lottery. Anyway, after 40 days, a bas kol, a heavenly voice, comes out of Shemayim, of heaven, and says, maybe buy a ticket.
Yeah. I tell it differently. I said, a guy begs God, let me win the lottery. I'll give 50%
Yeah.
to tzedakah. Doesn't win. The next week he says, God, all right, let me win. I'll give 65% to tzedakah. Doesn't win. The next week he comes back. God, I'll give 90% to tzedakah. Let me win. All of a sudden you hear a voice from heaven. God says, Moshe, do me a favor. Buy a ticket. So it's a good lesson for people.
Right.
You got to do something.
You got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, people think if they hang around, maybe it'll happen. You got to make it happen.
You got to try. You know the story with this woman. She tells her husband. She says, "If you ever win the lottery, I'm going to leave you right then and there, not coming back." So he says, "Okay, I just won $2. Get the hell out of here."
No, but why would she say that? If he wins the lottery and he doesn't give her anything.
No, she would get half of it.
Oh, she get half of it, yeah. I forgot that.
That's it. Called it a cock in the Heisen. That's what they called it. Okay, sei gesund.
You got good connections in this world.
I got good connections. Remember what I told you, Morty. It's
what?
Not who you know. It's who knows you.
Uh-huh.
That's what my grandmother used to say. You can know anybody. It's the whole chiddush is if they know you.